So, guys, Julie and I were walking out of the gym this morning, and I was explaining to her that there's supposedly a new Apple device that's coming out. It's gonna be like a wearable pin that you're gonna put on, magnetized, It's gonna be cameras, microphones, the whole thing, and it's gonna interface with an earpiece, which is gonna make it so that you can, essentially have the whole world around you translated if you want facts and figures, or if someone's speaking a foreign language to you and you want to have a real-time translation of what you're hearing, the whole thing. And then Julie said, "Oh, you mean like Star Trek, like a communicator?" And I didn't realize, yeah, that's exactly what it was. It's a silly communicator. But that's kind of incredible if you think about it. We're right in the precipice of this thing being released supposedly this year, where we're going to have literal communicators that are going to interpret the whole outside world for us. What do you guys think about that?
It's
Um,
happening also with Meta.
Yeah.
yeah,
Oakley glasses. My son got one, and it's just incredible the number of things it can do for you. You can ask it whatever you want, as long as you're watching at something and looking at something, and it will tell you exactly. It will describe for you what it is. So
We're,
it's
we're going to have to think
I
about how agents can
Well,
maximize the use of
oh,
that
I
technology.
already got the
All
idea.
right, let's go, Chris.
Yeah, we're gonna translate real estate talk for agents. So when the consumer says whatever they says or asks whatever they says, we're gonna tell the agent exactly
Oh,
what they
scripting.
mean. Yeah,
yep.
like
That's
Brilliant.
awesome.
Love
and
it.
how to respond and
Chris,
yeah, yeah.
you just hit the nail on the head, like always. Expired prospecting.
Well,
Every
everything,
time.
objection
Yeah,
handling, listing presentation, the whole
yeah,
nine.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You could just sit there and let the seller talk a listing presentation, and the thing will tell you what to say. That's hilarious.
Well, I'll tell you, I was going 95 South about a week ago, and I've seen this tall building in close to downtown Miami, and I asked my son, if you can find the name of that building, and he just asked.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he told them the name of the building, the developer, how many floors, the whole description of the building.
Wow.
Can I
Yeah.
share with you guys
He
something
just
else?
looked at it and it just told him.
Yeah, yeah.
So here's another fun conversation we had. This was yesterday, and I want to share. I want your guys' input on this. So Jensen Huang, who you guys know is the founder of NVIDIA, he was talking on a podcast and describing how he thinks practical knowledge or problem solving knowledge, which is what the world rewards now, like Elon Musk is a problem solver, that type of sort of thinking. That's what we've been trained, how we've been trained to think, how we've been educated in schools to think, how everything is memorization based and all the rest of it. And he said that type of thinking or that type of intelligence is what he said is going to be largely, he didn't say the word obsolete, but be replaced by AI. Now I'm talking about these wearables are now going to be giving us practical knowledge. We're not going to have all this. And I got to, I couldn't stop. I still can't stop thinking about it because what doesn't change in a scenario like this? But the second part of what he said, I thought was really special because it really is about real estate agents. Chris, would you in Orlando, would you and Julie Harris, would you guys agree that some of the most successful agents are the ones that basically have, I would say, higher than normal levels of intuitive intelligence?
Yeah, either genetically or developed.
Yep, I would agree.
Yeah,
What do you think,
yeah.
Orlando?
Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's what makes them different, right? And it opens their mind and allows them to see things that most agents can't.
that's right. Well, most humans, right? I mean, and it's intuition is not just what intuition is a feeling, but it's a feeling that you've gotten from life experience, from training to Heller's point, but also from being able to be really effective at picking up micro expressions and just the direction of the winds, right? Julie, what are you thinking?
Well, agents that have that, people that have that, I think maybe have a faster processor because they're able to grind all that out, the data. They're not just spitting out facts and figures. They've got a level of experience and they're interpreting all of these things at the same time and still moving the ball forward. I think agents that don't have that for whatever reason, maybe they're just inexperienced, absolutely have a handicap. And I talked about this with newer agent coaching clients is that they have an experience deficit that unless they get cracking soon, they're going to be delayed in that development.
Right. So,
And
but
so yes, I guess I agree. Yes, the most successful ones do have it.
our educational system almost suppresses people wanting to be intuitive in how they learn, and it essentially will impede people's development of their intuition because it wants you to be facts and figures based. That's my opinion. And if you guys don't agree, speak up. Because here's the second part of what I said I thought was really fascinating. He said real intelligence going forward. Now I got Chris's attention. Is going to be intuitive intelligence, like what we were just discussing, not practical problem solving intelligence. So knowing how to code, knowing how to solve problems that AI can do much more efficiently than we can, just the most complicated problem. Once it solves all math, basically, where everything is known, then the only thing that's going to be left for humans to differentiate themselves is their intuitive IQ, basically. And he even went as far as to say IQ testing and SAT scores and normal academic ways that they measure students are completely obsolete in this new world because AI. Now you're talking about wearables, all this happening at the same time. What are you guys thinking, Julie?
I think AI is going to have a harder time with that. Maybe,
It's impossible. He said
maybe
it
it'll
can't.
learn some of it. What I was thinking is I was thinking of a scene in of all things, that Inglourious Bastards movie, where they were sitting at the bar at the table, and one of them noticed like this tiny little micro expression where the waitress was counting a certain way, and they said, "Oh, she's not German."
He said three. He said three like this, opposed
Like
to
this.
three like this. But
That's
Julie,
right.
that's not intuitive intelligence. That's basically
I don't know whether
practical
an
intelligence.
AI would grab that or not. And I'll use a different example. You were talking to a friend of ours this morning at breakfast, and you said you caught a little micro expression that, was a tell. Little things like that, which if you
He
think
asked
about
it.
being,
He
yeah, go
asked if
ahead.
we invested in something, and I said no. And I could tell because the second I said no, I could tell that he did because he just had this quick little facial expression in the corner of his mouth. And then I changed topics because I didn't want to embarrass him because he hadn't done his homework. What are you thinking, Orlando?
Um,
Can't
Last week,
dance.
I watched this podcast. It's called Moonshot with Peter
Oh
Diamandis,
yeah.
Yeah.
and they had Elon Musk last week. And to me, it's AI is not even the biggest revolution. It's humanoids. Of course, it's powered by AI, right? But I didn't understand you're at the high income, universal high income, etc., until Elon Musk explained it last week, which is it's gonna get to a point. It's not AI, it's humanoids. It's gonna get to a point where there's gonna be billions of humanoids doing absolutely everything, right? And humanoids creating other humanoids. So anything you want is gonna be created almost to a perfect degree, much better than a human. So if I want this pod, it's going to be created immediately, and to me that's the biggest revolution.
Well,
Revolution.
but in addition to that, not just the manufacturing of things, but again, going back to practical problem solving. I mean, Julie was just talking to our accountant this morning. That type of thing is going to be easily replaced by AI. There's no intuitive strength
Right,
needed
right.
for doing books.
But here's the thing. Now it's and he was explaining this last week. If the three of us learn something in the podcast, it's the three of us, right? But these machines, one machine learns something, and all the other millions of machines
Yeah.
learn that thing. So
Oh, the shared
millions of
knowledge.
machines learning one thing, sharing it with all the other millions of machines, and the new machine already they don't have to train it.
We're
It
back to
already,
Julie and Star Trek because
right?
what the freaking Borg?
It's
You just
crazy.
described the Borg. That's what it
That's
was.
true. It was
Yeah.
the board
Chris
was
knows.
like that. Yeah.
I have a feeling Chris Heller knows Star Trek. So, Chris, what are you thinking about all this? Oh, by the way, as far as the Tesla, thank you for mentioning that, Orlando. Elon Musk announced yesterday or today that he's closing the Fairmont factory for making Model X's and Model S's, which is, he's been making forever. And guess what he's going to use the assembly line for? His largest, well, outside of Austin. Guess what he's making?
Humanoids.
Yes.
Yeah, of course.
Robots.
Wow.
He is retooling the whole freaking assembly line in California to make freaking robots. And someone from All In actually said that Jason said that he thinks in a year or two, people will forget that Tesla ever made cars because they'll just essentially 100% think of robots. Chris, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
I was going back to what Julie said. I think the ability to be intuitive, to have a high EQ, all that is when your mind is quiet. And what causes your mind to be quiet in like a sales situation or a presentation mode is when you don't have to be thinking about what you're going to say next or how to respond to that or what should I say or what should I do, because when you're thinking that, you're missing everything else that's going on in front of you. And I think when you said, hey, do better agents have these skills? I think that's one of the things that leads to those higher skills and that higher ability.
So you and Julie are very similar personality wise. You guys are both analytical and you're both drivers, okay? And your natural state would not be as an analytical person, please correct me if I'm wrong, is that you're not necessarily going to been you're not wired to put as much into it on your intuition as, say, for example, Orlando and I. Personality wise, he and I are very similar. So the moral of what I'm saying is what you're describing, I agree 1,000% from coaching forever. But it's also, you're talking about the 4 stages of learning and the 4 stages of mastery, right?
Yeah. And I think, and everyone's different too. I don't, yeah, I am analytical, but I also, I operate with a, intuition, knowing, whatever you want to call it. And that there's that tug of war that goes on inside here between the analytical mind and
Exactly.
the other mind.
Yeah. Well, Julie,
But
Julie's writing it down because she knows what I was about to ask her. What are the 4 stages of mastery?
Oh, okay. Put me on the spot because they all sound similar, but they are unconscious incompetence, conscious incompetence. We're going up. Then you've got conscious competence and unconscious competence.
So
Going from not knowing what you don't know, total ignorance basically about a thing, to being on autopilot when you've
So-
got what we're talking about.
I'm going to my first listing appointment. I lose it. I have my ass kicked. You go from unconscious incompetence to conscious incompetence. You realize what you don't know. And then you hire a coach or you get trained or you just basically start really honing your craft. And then you go to the next level where you're consciously competent, where you're starting to get good. But what Heller was just describing, what all these guys are talking about, is when you become unconsciously competent, where basically you are operating out of intuition, and this is Chris, when I could give Chris right now, actually I was thinking about starting a new segment called Stump the Heller, where I just throw you a script. I give you an objection and you overcome it. That'd be fun, right? But in any event, that's Chris, and that's anybody who basically is willing to put in the time, is that they're going to become consciously competent, where whatever they say and however they say it, they don't have to put a lot of effort into saying it. And then they do start operating more intuitively. So I think this is a really fun topic, which wasn't even on our agenda. So
Yeah, but
listen.
I would highlight the fact that it's impossible to get to that unconscious competence with that instinct and intuition. You can't just skip the other stages.
No, you can't skip the work.
Right. So that's where I would argue a little bit with you that education, like your intuition is fueled by that education and by, going through the scripts and trying out different scripts and having success with this script and then doing that repetitively. In the beginning, that's not intuitive at all. That's just learning. But you're not going to get to the anticipation, that instinct, that intuition that, every other seller that I've ever been in front of, when they sit back in their chair, I'm starting to lose them. To Chris's point, if you're thinking, oh my God, what am I going to say next? You're not even going to notice that they push their chair back.
Right. You're going to be too busy thinking about what you're going to say next and too busy thinking about how you feel. So
Exactly.
This is a good pivot. This is a fun start. All right. So let's move on to the first topic. How do you guys stay motivated, or how you guys all have coached people? Chris, you've run companies. You were the CEO of Keller Williams. Julie and I have had over 100,000 coaching calls, just all this. And one of the things that people always say, and they usually say it not this time of year, but mid-year, is that I'm just not motivated. I'm feeling burned out. So how do you stay motivated or coach other people to stay motivated and avoid feeling burned out? Chris Heller?
I struggle with that sometimes because I being motivated is like it's not even anything I have to think about. Like it's like I'm just motivated, right? Like so it's hard for me sometimes to relate to that. Now, that being said, it's rare that you would feel that way when you're being productive. It's rare that you feel that way when you're taking action. It's rare that you feel that way when you're having success. So I think the anti-burnout recipe is to take action, to do something productive, even if it's like there's days where and everyone's experienced this, where you've done where you didn't get an appointment, where you didn't get a contract signed, but you did a lot of things that moved you closer to that happening, and it was productive, and you can end the day going, okay, I made progress, and I think that's the You know, and there's other components too. I also think that our health, right? Like what fuel we're putting in these machines, how much rest we're getting, all those things contribute to that also.
Right. Orlando, how about you? You are like when I've gone to your events before, you guys are very content based, content rich, but you've done something I've never seen anyone do before. You combine it with a crap ton of motivation that's intertwined into the education during especially your big events, like the ones you guys do in Miami. So motivation is a big part of it. But when you have a coaching client or a friend coming to you and said, dude, I'm just not feeling it, or like maybe sometimes you don't feel it, how do you get yourself remotivated, reinvigorated?
So two components, right? I'm kind of like Chris. I never felt like I have to be motivated. It's in my nature because I always saw a bigger future. One of my mentors for a long time, he has a beautiful phrase. It's Peter. It's not Peter. It's Dan Sullivan. He says, in order to have a better present, you need to have a bigger future, right? So if you see a bigger future in front of you, you're going to take action. So I always give the example, how do you feel the night before going on vacation? And you have to be in the airport at 6 in the morning. You wake up all energized, right? I'm so happy. I'm waking up at 4:30 in the morning because I'm going on vacation to Europe. Everybody's happy, right? Because you have a very nice future right in front of you. But most people are procrastinating or unmotivated because they don't see anything better close to them, right?
You don't realize, you do realize the genius in what you just said, but you don't realize the genius in what you just said, because one of the best ways to stay motivated to accomplish any goal, especially one that's a tough goal, is you focus on what it'll feel like when you accomplish the actual result, not when you focus on the fact you got up at 4:30. Flying just sucks. I don't care what class of airline you're flying in. The whole experience is awful, right? Everything coming and going. If you focus on that, you're not going to want to end up in Dubai. Didn't you just get back from Dubai, by the way? Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So that's the thing, is when you're to his point, I'm just trying to enhance what you said, is that focus on the actual cake. Don't focus on all the work that goes into making it. Focusing on all the work that goes into it, making it, you'll never start.
But by the way, maybe back to Chris's point and we were born like that, right? Always thinking about the cake, the vacation, not the process of getting to the vacation. Some other people think about, oh my God, I gotta go through TSA, the line, the passport. It's all these things that I gotta go through. So if that's you, you have to sell it to yourself all the time, right? It's the cake or it's the vacation, and it becomes a habit. And I always say it, even if you don't reach your goal, always for your own benefit and development, always set a goal that you cannot achieve right now with the current abilities you have.
That's
Always.
another genius part. You just said something
Right.
awesome. Go ahead, Chris. You're about to say something.
Yeah, I was gonna very similar. I was gonna say, when we have a goal that's more important than how we feel, it's much easier to move forward. It's much easier to do the things when you don't feel like doing it.
Oh, do not steal my line, bro. He was about to.
And all right, now don't make me lose my thought. Oh, and I think it's also understanding, like, if I don't know what burnout looks like, I know what it feels like. But I also know that the vast majority of feelings come from thoughts. So if someone's feeling burned out or not motivated or anything, then the thing to do is say, okay, what are the thoughts I'm having that are causing me to feel this way? And it could be thoughts like, this isn't working, this is hard, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, it could be all those type of thoughts. And then you have to ask yourself, are those reality? And most of the time they're not. Most of the time they're our mind going down, wormholes and, making things worse than they are. But sometimes there is reality there. And then you can do something about it. Like, yeah, I'm not, I wasn't as good enough to get that listing. All right, well then great. What are you going to do to get good enough? How are you going to get coached? How are you going to improve your skills? But it's not staying in that level of just feeling like and I'm not saying I don't have feeling, like we all have except for the humanoids, but we all have feelings, right? Even some of us that may act or look like we don't, like Tim. But
I'm glitching. Julie, he
like
just
having you guys on the podcast.
Julie, oh yeah, great, because you guys are gonna pick on me. Julie, he just teed
Yes.
you up for that filtering thing where
I
you
know
go
the
through?
four
Is it-
things.
Yeah, don't forget.
I
That's
come-
really good. You just said
Yeah.
something to tease her up. It's one of her favorite things to talk about. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm just gonna say it's like it's not being stuck at wherever it is. Like if it's at I'm not feeling motivated, I'm feeling burned out, I'm tired, it's like, okay, well, what are the thoughts that are causing you to feel that way? And then the next step is, are those real? And they may or may not be, and most of the time they're not. But if they are, then you have a clear path on what you need to do to change those thoughts and change those feelings.
Julie Harris, he has teed you up perfectly.
Yes. Well, he covered about half of we call these the four filters, right? When you're trying to break out of that mindset hamster wheel. What is the belief? Like what Chris was saying, stop yourself. I think that's the hardest part, is to just pause and be introspective. But what am I believing? I believe that because of this blizzard, I'm never going to be warm again. It's super cold. The market's trash. The rates are too high. I believe all this junk. Okay, well, that's the first thing. What is the belief? Just isolate.
Brady, let's keep it more practical, right?
I know. Then is it true? Do I know that is that actually true? Chris said that. Then who am I right now in this moment because I believe this thing? And number 4, who would I believe if I let that go and I no longer believe that thing? What if I stopped believing that my real estate momentum is dependent on market conditions? What if I let that go and I realize it's actually dependent on me?
So let's
How
give
do
an
I
example.
change?
But let's give them an example, right? So the average person listening right now is in production. They're making money. They've been successful in real estate. Those are the types of people that are listening to this podcast. So Julie, let's go through. And so that means they're probably been in the business for 10 years or so. They probably, the typical coaching profile, frankly. I'm too old to be successful. I'm never going to accomplish my financial goals. So take them through the filters of I'm too old. Like if that's something that one of our listeners or viewers is actually thinking.
Well, so that's the belief. I'm too old. Is it actually true? How would I even know that? If I was on a coaching call, I would say, well, who do you know who's your age or older who's super successful?
And who do you know from history? Like Enzo Ferrari did not start Ferrari until he was like 55 or 56. Did you know that, Orlando?
No, I didn't.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? He started Ferrari in his freaking 50s. And you
Started
guys
it then.
started it, right? And some of the biggest fortunes in history that we all celebrate are started by people that were in their 50s. Chris, did you know that?
I didn't.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Ferrari, I didn't know that. Yeah.
Well, not just Ferrari, but there's countless examples. And
Oh,
because
yeah.
society has taught us, oh, your 20s, that's bullshit. Most people do not become single-digit millionaires until they're in their 50s. Statistically, that's true. So, I mean, there you go to Julie's question. If you're going through these filters yourself, am I too old? No. Even if you're in your 60s or your 70s, your 80s. Go ahead, Julie.
Well, who do I believe if I'm holding on to that? Who am I right now because I think I'm too old to be successful? Well, I'm an unmotivated, kind of depressed person that's decided that my ship has sailed, perhaps. So then you say, well, what if I let that go? What if I just stop believing that I'm too old? Maybe because my coach told me, hey, you know what? Look at all these successful people that were even older than I am that started being successful then. Gosh, that feels different than when I first had this thought, when I wrote down what it is that I believe. And so you start to coach yourself through that emotional and mental journey to let go of that thought. Now, it can happen too that maybe what you believe is correct. Chris used an example. For whatever reason, I didn't take that listing. That's true. Okay. And I didn't take it because apparently I wasn't as good as the agent who did. So that leads me to, all right, well, who am I believing? Gosh, do I believe, am I going to be like this forever? Or what if I believe that I could be that good and I could get my appointment to listings taken ratio to 9 out of 10? What would I have to do? How would I change? So that's kind of a self-coaching 4-filter type of thing.
So as Chris pointed out earlier, I am partially Android. So I'll give you what I actually tell coaching clients and what I actually think. So hopefully this is helpful. Feelings will always betray you. They'll always betray you. So because feelings change constantly. Just during the last 26 minutes, you guys have been listening to this podcast. How many times has your feelings changed? Hungry, sad, excited, motivated, angry because Tim interrupted Julie, whatever the hell it was, right? So how many different times did your emotions change? So your feelings are going to betray you. So if you are going to have a life that's dependent on your emotional state, you're never going to accomplish anything for that exact reason. And here's another thing. like people follow their passion. Following your passion is frankly, a path off a mountain cliff, because you're never going to get anywhere. Because as soon as you stop having passion for what it is that you're trying to accomplish, which happens as soon as things get hard, you're going to stop doing it. And so a lot of people, what they'll do is go from one thing, oh, I lost my passion for it, to another, to another, to another. Real estate is a holding bucket basically for people who've tried other things and now they're trying real estate. You cannot try anything and get really good at it. And so this is what I wrote down. I mean, at the end of the day, knowing that your feelings, and here's another little physiological fact. Your emotional state will always follow your physical state. Julie and I were listening to Dr. Laura Schlesinger a long time ago, which you guys should listen to her as well. Great marital advice, all these things. She's always been our wise old grandmother, Anyway, so there was a gal that called into her radio show, and I'm going to give them the real example, Julie, just because we're amongst adults. And the lady said, basically, I haven't been intimate with my husband forever, and I'm not really sure what's going on, and we must not love each other anymore, and all these other types of things. And Dr. Laura said, well, tell me about, typical evening. Well, he comes home from work and da 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 da. And Laura goes, well, what are you wearing? Well, I'm wearing sweatpants. And she goes, well, they sexy sweatpants? Well, no, they're his sweatpants, So she was basically making no effort. He was making no effort, the whole thing. And so what Laura suggested that she do is she said, go to, I don't remember where she said, but go buy some sexy lingerie. Go make the house really clean when he walks in, have dinner waiting, completely be like his girlfriend. And she said, do that for like every night for 5 or 6 or 10 nights in a row. And then I want you to call me back. And she called back and she said, and Laura asked her, and she said, oh my God, everything's changed. Our marriage is like it was when we first got married. And then Laura said, well, tell me about the process. Did you feel like doing it for the first 7 of the 10 days or whatever it was? She goes, no, I had to talk myself into it. I didn't want to put on the lingerie. I didn't want to make the effort, because she was having to load in new operating software as far as what her nightly behavior was going to be. And then he followed suit. Men always follow suit, by the way. We're easy. And then, long story short, it worked. Now, where could she have screwed up is if she read a bunch of books and had a bunch of seminars and worked on her mindset. Instead, what she did is she changed her physiology by essentially putting her body in action. And that's what changed her mindset. So
her actions had to override her feelings.
That's right. Because if you wait around for your feelings will betray you. So do what you don't want to do when you don't want to do it at the highest level. And that's what I tell all of our coaching clients when they're having those bad days. I say, what are the 3 to 5 things that you're going to accomplish this day that are most important to you? Get those things done and tell me how you feel at the end of the day. And always the emotional state changes because it follows the physical state. What are you guys thinking?
Which, by the way, Tim, following that, anybody can do this, right? Sleep better, exercise early in the morning, which you guys do, all of us do, and eat better. And we all know that, but most people don't. And how do you feel after a exercise session? Nobody says, oh man, I should have not done that. You feel super energized, right? If you sleep well, you don't have to wake up early in the morning. You just go to bed a little bit earlier. And that makes a huge difference, man. If you're living on a 5 to 6 hour sleep, you're not exercising and eating all sugar and caffeine all day long, it's difficult, man, to have the clarity, the willpower to execute. You're just tired. You're just completely tired. If you sleep 7.5 to 8 hours every day, that would change your mind. And most people are sleep deprived.
There is a rare genetic type of person that only needs 4 to 5 hours. It's definitely not me.
Absolutely. Yeah. But very, most likely it's not a typical real estate agent.
So,
and by the way, nobody's going to go against their exercise.
All right. So let's just, you and I get into the real estate confessional. You used to have a candy addiction, true or false?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And
I still like it.
Yeah, I know. But you got over the candy. And what was the mental trick that you did to get over the candy, to stop rewarding yourself for the candy? How did you do it?
Well, I had very high cholesterol after, it's a glucose, about 110. That scared me a lot. I said, stop it. Now it's at 83, which is very good. So,
what did you do to stop it? What did you do to stop yourself from physically eating candy?
In my case,
yes.
Looking at the glucose at 110, it was my case. Maybe somebody else doesn't, but that moved me.
Well,
right?
Wasn't there, you and I worked on a trick too. Didn't we talk about, like, you have to ask yourself before you put that in your mouth, is the ramifications of eating this thing.
Tim, or you guys lost me? Oops.
Huh?
You're back. I can hear you. I think Tim's internet might be a little sketch for a second.
I can hear you guys.
He's back. He's back. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, like, before this is, before you're about to eat, it says my internet connection is not stable, but hopefully it's back. If I start buffering again, just say something. So in any event, before you're about to eat candy or do something that you know ultimately is not going to be favorable, have a positive outcome in your life, ask yourself, is having this little tiny 3-second bite of
I
candy really
remember
worth?
that.
So that, but
Remember
that's the trick, right? But isn't
that.
that true also with spending money too? Like,
Yeah.
why am I buying this thing? Why am I eating this thing? And so if you really kind of like slow your roll and not be so emotionally addicted or break that cycle, it just implies. So what are you thinking, Orlando?
I remember exactly where it was. We were having dinner at a rooftop in a building in Midtown, Miami, and everybody ordered dessert. And I asked you, are you gonna have dessert? I said, no, man, it's not worth the 3 seconds of pleasure, you know, to change my, my diet. It's you that something along those lines, and that surprised me, and it was very good. It's not worth the 3 seconds of pleasure, and
But
that
everything's
helped.
like that, isn't no? In
Yeah,
life, isn't
yeah,
there everything like that? Isn't that funny? How really, if you just stop yourself and
But
ask what,
here's the thing that I think because the four of us are probably on the more naturally motivated thinking about these types of things, and because we all are coaches and we're used to having these conversations, I think that the challenge for a lot of people is that first breath of isolating that thought and
that's
being
right.
introspective and thinking about
yeah.
it and saying, hey, maybe I shouldn't have as much candy. Or like for me, I love dessert as much as anybody. My trick is I pretend I just ate it.
Yeah.
I feel the same. Like,
Okay.
and I
Well,
don't have to take the calories in or the sugar in or the caffeine or whatever. But I think it's the in the moment taking the breath. And I think, in real estate, we see this when maybe somebody's not ready to make those changes. Like an agent loses a listing appointment and they immediately blame it on the seller. They blame it on the seller wanted to overprice it or whatever. It wasn't their fault. They're not being introspective. They're not taking that breath and they're not saying, what do I need to do to not have this experience over and over? Until maybe they lose the one that they thought they for sure had in the bag because it was a past client. Well, now I've been woken up. Like when you got your glucose number, you probably knew you were having too much candy, but it was that thing that happened to you that said, "Hey, I got to take this more seriously." I think that's the challenge is the first part.
So here's something interesting. If you guys feel like you're about to sneeze, if you think you're going to sneeze, in your mind, tell yourself you've just sneezed. And then you
I'll
won't
try
have to
that.
sneeze. I know I heard that the other day and
Hmm.
I was listening to obviously a podcast and the doctor was walking through the psychology, essentially what happens in your physiology when you've actually thought through, okay, I've just sneezed. If you're about to sneeze and you don't want to sneeze and you think I've just sneezed, and it happened to me yesterday, Julie, and I
Yeah,
didn't sneeze. Isn't that crazy?
it worked. Oh,
It
that's
totally
interesting.
worked. Yeah. So I think we're just a big bunch of wiring that once we figure out how to make all the connections, things go better. I think Chris is getting his batteries recharged right now
I
because
don't know. Yeah, I can't. I like disappeared. My video just disappeared.
he's the Android, by the way. He didn't want to, you
Gotta
know
go
what he
plug
is,
back in.
Julie, he's a lizard people.
Lizard
He didn't want us to
Yes.
see it.
Should we do question number two
Yeah, let's
about?
get to it. This is what you that'll be the last question for today. He's gonna have to log back in. And you and I are gonna have to yammer on this because Orlando said this isn't really his forte. But the question that we wrote down is why do teams make less net profit than solo agents? It's not a rule, but generally it's true. And so we can talk a little bit about that. Julie, hold on, here comes Chris again. This would be a great question for Chris.
That's fine.
Yeah, so I think his video just crapped out. So the moral of the story with all of this is that I'll set it up with the story while Chris comes back online. I was on a coaching call with one of the I forget what the official Keller Williams title for these guys that run the office at a Keller Williams office, but this was a Keller Williams office that was owned by Keller Williams International in Austin, and the guy had just left his job as running the office and a team lead, I think is what they call it. Is that right, Chris? When you're the recruiter at
Yeah, the
KW
team
office?
leader. Yeah, the
Okay,
team
team
leader.
leader. Okay, your video is still stuck, but that's okay. We can hear
I
you
know.
just
I
fine.
know. I'm working on it.
It's fine. All right, so a team leader who was really just a recruiter. So he and I were having this conversation because he wanted to, move forward in a different direction in his career. So we started talking about teams. And I said, has it ever bothered you? And I'll tell you guys another really quick story too about something Gary Keller actually told me. Has it ever bothered you that the teams that Keller Williams is, essentially promoting growth of it as a team. Many of those team leaders basically make no money and are slowly going broke, and they have no exit strategy and have no real path to profitability in a meaningful way. And he said it really bothers the hell out of me. He said every day they would walk into my office asking what to do, and the answer was essentially there really effectively was nothing to do unless they essentially went in a completely different direction. All right, we're going to go now back to 2018, and I'm talking with Gary Keller. And I won't tell you why. It doesn't matter why. And I asked him the same question. And Gary had written a great book based on trainings from Howard Brinton. And the basis of it was Millionaire Real Estate Agent. That was the book. And in there, he talked about how to build a successful, profitable real estate team, which Chris Heller originally did and still does. You know, his business is based on proactive lead generation. And I asked Gary, I said, why, Gary, in your model at MAPS coaching and whatnot, there's a lot of training that's done around forming teams that result in the people that put the team together not making very much profit. And I asked him, I think I caught him by surprise, and he didn't say anything on this phone call. And he said, they stopped listening to me. That's what he said. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, in my mastermind, where these big teams were starting to basically form these bigger teams and these expansion teams and all these other teams, I told them to build around profit. They didn't listen to me. And as a result of that, that business model sort of, morphed into a hybrid of what originally was intended to be. All right. So I've teed the conversation up. Chris, this is a good way for me to hand it off to you, since you've run a real estate team and you are the CEO of Keller Williams.
And do you want me just to jump in? You want me to comment on what you were just saying, or jump
Yes.
into the
Well,
question?
the question was, why do team leaders often make less? So a team leader who runs a team who makes $1 million in GCI, normal team, they're going to make less net profit on average than an individual agent that has a GCI of, say, 180 grand, or they're going to have the same net profit. So make $1 million, earn 100 grand, make 180 grand, make 100 grand, go.
Yeah. So there's a variety of reasons. One reason is that they stop producing. They get out of production and think that having a team means that, now they own a business, which they do, but that they don't need to produce anymore. So that's probably the primary reason. Another reason is that they have flawed models, right? So the economic structure that they've set up on their team, they haven't looked at those models, played those models out, extrapolated them to say, okay, what happens when this happens? What happens when that? So, they have more money going out than coming in. And then because they focus on maybe just the growth of the team or feeding the team, they start to say, okay, I need to spend money to do this, or I need to buy leads for them, or I need to do this, instead of, going back to the basics, saying, okay, how can I make each agent more productive? How can I help them increase their skills? I always have the visual in my head of a bucket with holes in it. And most real estate businesses are a bucket with holes in it. And they think that pouring more water and pouring more leads in will fix it. And it doesn't. It just causes more to go out the holes. So I think those are some of the primary reasons why team leaders often make less money than good or top agents.
Our friend and our company, you guys are, and in case you're watching, we're all associated with eXp Realty. By the way, if you're looking to do a brokerage upgrade and you want to partner with us at eXp Realty, all of our links are down below. You can learn about our eXp Realty team. So speaking of eXp Realty, Leo Perea and I were having this conversation a while ago, and he said something really good. He said, it's easy to scale up than it is to scale down. It's easy to hire people when the cash flow is flowing, because the cash covers all the mistakes and the sort of miscalculations. Just more money, who cares? It's a problem, but I'll just continue to pay for it. But then when the cash flow slows down, you have to start firing people and right sizing all the decisions. That's a hell of a lot more painful. And in that downsizing is where people go broke because they take too long to do it. I'm sure, Chris, in your life, you've seen that a million times.
Oh yeah, and that's not unique to real estate.
No.
That's like many businesses. But I'll tell you what, like the best example I had of this was in I think it was 2018 or 19. I had joined Anthony Shea at Loan Depot as the CEO of his sister company, and the mortgage industry went through a very quick shift, like margin compressions, and it just slowed down very fast. In 60 days, we went from 8,000 employees down to 5,500 employees.
How long?
Like, in 60 days. Like he saw what happened, saw what was happening, and
Wow.
took like immediate action. Like Um, and because of that, look at 3 years later, Loan Depot went public and had things. A lot of mortgage companies went out of business at that time.
By the way, we're going to play a new game starting next week, Chris. It's going to be called Look It. And whoever guesses the right amount of times that you say Look It during the podcast wins. That was your first one.
That was one of my that's people that worked for me used to say that was one of my tells. If I came into a meeting or in a meeting, if I said Look It, they knew I was like a little agitated.
Concentrating.
Concentrating.
Orlando, what are you thinking? ¿Qué piensas, mi amigo?
It's again, it's more people, more things to manage. I completely agree with Chris. You get out of production. It happens with brokers too. It's not only teams, right? The broker has been making good money, $600,000, $700,000 a year, maybe, or $500,000, and then he starts to manage the brokerage, and you see him 2 years later, a year and a half later, struggling financially. Now he has way more expenses. He's managing agents that are not that productive, and then the business starts to go down.
Julie, we have had over the years, I don't know how many coaching clients that have come to us who feel embarrassed because they follow this team model. They realize, usually after listening to our podcast, that they have stopped focusing on their net. Chris and Orlando said this. They basically are burning the candle at both ends. They're embarrassed. They feel like they're failing. They don't understand why the model is so amazing of building this big team, and you could sit on an island and pick the snow or the sand out of your toes all day while everyone else runs around and do all the work for you. Yada yada yada. The big fantasy. Okay, sure. They come to us embarrassed, kind of beaten down. They think they're the problem. Where the reality of it is the business model back when it was originally, I think what I popularized back in the 90s, it actually worked. And now it doesn't work at the same level. And it's going to even get worse to work because of the commission compressions, especially with referral fees. So if you have somebody that's listening to us right now, that's essentially experiencing that, what do you tell them?
Well, we take a really close look at what's actually happening, because when you're running a team, it's really easy to be, either intentionally or unintentionally a bit checked out, especially on the numbers, right? So what is the individual team member, what does, here's a big, there's so many things, but one of the things that I'll do is I'll ask them, identify whoever, we'll call her Susie. Susie's a team buyer agent. How much does Susie have to earn per month to accomplish what she needs to do in life? Now, there's a great variety of that. She might not ever have to sell another house as long as she lives because all of her expenses are paid. Well, that person's going to operate differently than somebody that has 4 kids and is the sole provider. Do you even know what the deal is with each team member? Because typically they, almost in every case, they don't need to, have to, or want to earn what you think they should be earning. And just because you believe in them, right, and they can do it, and you've coached the daylights out of them, and you've given them the best scripts. And
Orlando and I beat the hell out of this conversation about 2 months ago, and he and I talked on the phone for like 5 hours about this very thing, and you're hitting the nail on the head, because that is
just because I want that does not mean that they do, and this can be a big problem. Now, maybe you've got 6 team members, and one of them is your rock star. That's probably the only one you need to have on the team. And that's tough, especially because a lot of team leaders hire people that they like. It's family members, it's past clients, it's your friend that you go to the gym with, versus hiring somebody that's going to be productive for the team. And these are difficult conversations.
Yeah. And this is a different, but you and I had a, go ahead. Sorry, Chris, were you about to say something? Someone was about, I don't want to interrupt anybody.
It wasn't me.
Okay. Well, I mean, Julie and I
No, I did just have a thought.
Okay, go ahead.
No, but it's off topic. It was back to the very first question. So
that's okay. You can loop it. They're probably related. I mean, because really, if someone has a team right now, Chris, truthfully, and they're frustrated and they think that they're the problem, the reality of it is they're not the problem. They probably, it's an old saying. If you try to make an A play, first of all, A players attract A players. That's true. I'll say it. We're all A players for damn sure. But also, to Julie's point, if you hire an A player on your team and then you hire a bunch of B and C players, the A player is going to quit because they do not want to be around B and C players. And what most of us do is we, to Julie's point, hire really people like, again, she said it. If someone has to earn $7,500 a month or $10,000 a month, and you're giving them all these gold-plated leads, you're just pissing away your money. Because if they've got, say, 2 or 3 months of pendings that are coming in to cover their personal overhead for the next 2 or 3 months, I promise you, you're wasting your money and time because they're not ambitious enough because they're not an A player. Guys, what are you thinking?
Yeah,
It,
it's what you said. The key is the A players attract A players.
Yep.
And no one wants to be on a team. Well, I shouldn't say no one. There's very few people that want to be the best person on the team, right? It's not that they don't want to strive to be the best, but they don't want to be the best. They don't want to be on a team where everyone else is underachievers. That's a big fish in a little pond syndrome, and that's just an ego play. But most people want to be surrounded by other really good people. Every part of my decisions when I make a decision on, if I'm going to join a company or be a part of it, that is one of the primary criteria. Like, are there people that I can learn from? Are there people I can grow with? Are there people smarter than me? Are there people that, are going to give us a better chance of winning because their talent level? And if that's not there, then that opportunity is not going to be appealing to me.
Well, I've had recruiting calls with people wanting to join EXP, attraction calls, and they have been the top agent in their offices. And Julie, you've had coaching clients like this too. And they've been the top agent. They get all the rewards, the plaques, all the recognition they could ever want, and then some. And they are afraid to move over to EXP because then they're going to have to basically be they'll be a small fish in a big pond. And so they have to realize that they can actually survive and thrive, and they can become a bigger, essentially literally richer form of themselves if they were just willing to be surrounded by the right people in the right environment. What are you thinking, Orlando? This is right in your wheelhouse, this conversation.
yeah, it's over 25 years I've discovered, and it's hard for me. But Yuli was saying it. You can want it more than they want it, and the A players want it. B and C players need it, and they can be in debt. They can be behind in the rent, and they need to make the money, but they don't really want it, and they won't do absolutely anything to change it, right?
Yeah.
And we have seen it many times. So to what Chris was talking about, trying to find the people, the group, the company. Most people, what I found in real estate, they want to make a little bit of money to cover their expenses and then be socially accepted, have a social life around real
Recognition.
estate where they
Yeah.
can have breakfast, lunch with other real estate agents, and they can go open houses or pre-constructions and have a, a nice day in the office or in the field and cover their expenses, right? So is that you? This is not the podcast for you, I think.
Yeah.
If you're an A player, you really, really, really want to excel and develop yourself, then we can talk.
Yeah.
So I'm
And
very adamant with it. I'm black and
well,
white with it.
well,
I respect that, but I don't want to be surrounded by those people. And I respect that, right? But I just want people that want more out of life every
you're
day.
saying you're not judging the fact that they're not wanting to be A players or in any way, even though A is better than B. You're not saying
Right.
that we're casting dispersions on them. You're saying it
Right.
just is you're in real estate. There's 1.6 million members of National Association of Realtors. If you look at the actual numbers, there's 350,000 that are actually in production and doing any amount of business. And of those, the ones that are doing the most work are going to be the ones that are copy Chris, are the ones that are, it's like 10% of those people. And those are the people that are listening to this podcast. So listen, everyone, Chris Heller just reminded me he's got to bounce. He's got another important meeting with Elon Musk or some such thing. But listen, we are encouraging you to realize that you have the potential to be an A player, and we would love the opportunity to have you partner with us, DXP Realty. All the links are down below for how to communicate directly with these guys. Obviously, this is a group that's at EXP and just life in general that's, I'd say, abnormal. And if you're abnormal, if you're a weirdo like all of us, then you found your
It's a
new
compliment.
It is
Hey,
a compliment.
Tim,
It's
can
a
I share
compliment.
something? Can I share something, Tim?
Speaking of weirdos, Chris wants to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, speaking of weird, that was my cue. In the last, I don't know, like 6 or 7 days, I must have had a dozen people reach out to me on social media, DM me like, hey, the most recent one was early this morning, said, hey, I have lots of leads, I have lots of follows, I just don't know what to say. And I get a large variety of those, or I'm new and I'm starting out and I watch your videos, can you help me? And I've been sharing with them our group, our Libertas group. And I just said, hey, look, here's the things that we provide. Do you think this would be helpful to you? And most of them are blown away, like, like all the things, like all the coaching, the scripting, the presentations, like it's all there. And we haven't really talked about like
We don't, but the
what's
links
there.
are down. But thank
Yeah.
you, Chris.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I wanted to keep this content rich and not go
Yeah.
into pitch mode, but the reality
Yeah.
of it is what he's saying is right. So if you're wanting to learn how to say, what to say, presentations, pre-qualification scripts, look, we're not a raw group. We just aren't. We're focused on practical, tactical things that are going to put you into action so you can be in alignment with your highest and truest purpose in this planet, which is being of service to other people. And we're going to give you the tools to make it so you can win, to have your unfair share of the marketplace. That's what we're all about. And when you join us at Libertas and you join us in our EXP Realty group, Libertas is Latin for freedom. It's also in Spanish. I don't think it's freedom. It's something similar though, right?
That's exactly right. No, in
It's
Spanish, it's the
freedom.
same thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it means freedom. So the reality of it is from freedom to make your own decisions where you want to live, make your own decisions on all the things that come from essentially, from being rich. And rich is merely where your money works for you. You no longer have to work for your money. We encourage you to align with us. Look, you could be an individual agent, you could be a broker, you could be an agent in production, you could be a top producing agent, a team. It doesn't matter. Look, Chris is the former CEO of Keller Williams. Orlando is one of the most influential Hispanic coaches in the world. I mean, Julie and I don't even know why we're on the show. So what I'm trying to say is, if you're looking for a new home, if you're looking to swim with the big fishes, we're here. We're waiting for you. This is what you've been looking for, many of you. And if you want to know what to say and how to say it, you do get instant access to everything that's listed. It's $43,000 worth of coaching and training and content above and beyond what EXP offers. And the link is down below. Click on one of the websites and reach out to one of these guys and say, hey, look, I want to talk to you about joining EXP. So Chris, I don't want to hold.
I love it when you just gave like the perfect pitch and commercial, but you started with saying, "Hey, I don't want this to
I
be
do that all
that,"
the time.
and then you just did it.
Yeah, I do.
It
turned
was
it
awesome. It was awesome, and I think people need to hear what's available. So,
Yeah, well,
thank you.
because if they know you're about to pitch, they're going to tune out. But if you tell them you're not going to pitch, then they listen.
Yeah, but this is all related. This is all very much on topic, because how many people are listening that know they've got a player in them, but maybe they're just in the wrong office? Maybe nobody has said, hey, you do these 3 things. You start tracking your numbers, you start using your scripts, and you start going on more appointments and talking to more people. You have the ability to be an A player, but maybe they haven't had the tools yet. It is really.
And there's a lot of people out there that have the desire. They just don't have like the
environment,
the counsel or the environment, or like, hey, here's what to do. They just want to be aimed in the right direction. And
well, that's the reason our group is
skills.
attracting coaches, attracting leaders, attracting CEOs. We're attracting a certain pedigree of people because they're wanting to be around like-minded folks. And Chris is getting anxious. I know him well enough to know his anxious looks, and so he's ready to go. But listen, guys, thank you for listening to Powerhouse Talk. We're going to do this show every single week. If you have any suggestions or ideas, you can message us down below or just message us over on our Instagram page, powerhousetalk.com or powerhousetalk @ right? Make sure you like and subscribe and leave a pithy comment. If you're on iTunes or Spotify, please do give us a 5-star review and leave a comment as to why you liked today's podcast. But in the meantime, if you're ready for a brokerage upgrade, if you're just mildly EXP curious, click the link below and watch the video. If you're ready to join EXP Realty and you're looking for a sponsor who's going to be extremely proactive, in some cases annoyingly so, in your success at EXP, not just selling real estate, but also recruiting agents, forming your downline. If you don't want to focus on that now, you just want to focus on selling real estate, we've got you covered. This is the perfect group for you. Proven people, proven systems. Now it's up to you to take action. So thanks, guys. God bless. Have a great week.
Thank you.
See ya. Bye-bye.